Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins,
I'm Paul Hankins.
and you're on the air with Power Squared. We had a guest scheduled for tonight. Things did not work out. I don't know if you're aware that we had a lot of rain in Southern California, and that knocked out her internet. So we'll have her on in March. But we're going to talk about
The Lightning Thief.
the Percy Jackson Book 1,
Yes.
written by Richard Riordan.
Rick Riordan.
Rick
yeah.
Riordan. Yeah, I keep hearing, when I hear Rick Riordan, I keep thinking of the former mayor of LA, which was Richard Riordan. But
Okay.
different story. Okay, so you've actually read the book.
Yeah. Within the last, I think I mentioned this before, but within the last year or two, I got back into reading middle grade fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a recommendation for Percy Jackson, so I ended up reading the first book. What motivated me to read that was because of the Disney Plus series that came out at the end of last year.
Right.
So I figured I'd read the book and see how accurate the show is.
Right. Okay.
And I ended up liking the book.
Yeah. So tell us, without giving away too much, what is this story about?
All right, so Percy Jackson is a kid who has been dealing with dyslexia and ADHD. And he learns that he is a demigod.
Right.
Meaning like the son, the offspring of a god and a mortal.
Mm-hmm.
And he also learns that he has a role in preventing a war between Zeus and Poseidon.
Okay.
Because Percy is accused of stealing Zeus's master bolt. So he has to retrieve the master bolt and clear his name.
Yeah. So he is the son of
Poseidon.
and his mother. Now, there's a lot of this is all very Greek mythology.
Yes.
I mean, the Romans stole all that, but
Yeah.
this is original Greek.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So I am not an expert on Greek mythology,
Right.
but I know Zeus is like the head god.
Yeah.
But
he's the ruler of Mount Olympus.
Now, he got that by doing something, didn't he? Like killed his father or something.
Yeah, and I'll admit a lot of my knowledge of Greek mythology comes from the God of War interpretation, which, while God of War did take some liberties, is still largely accurate.
Right.
In Greek mythology, there's a cycle of like the son wanting to or succeeding in killing the father.
Okay. So yeah, does the book make you does it rely a lot on your knowledge of Greek mythology, or does it sort of tell you?
They explain it. They explain it in a digestible way.
Okay, because that
and they like when a mythological figure shows up, they only explain what's relevant.
right. Okay. Because yeah, I at least now I have not read the book.
Right.
I have seen the movie that was based on it, and we've watched the series that was based on it.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm having to just assume that they explain things as they go along.
Yeah.
Because most people
they don't front load you with all the Greek mythology if that's what you're asking.
No. I just wondered how they introduce it, because it's a known thing. It's not like he could just make that up.
Yeah.
Or hijack it without people going, hey, that's not how it really is.
Well, Rick Riordan tried to be accurate to the mythos, or the mythology, but he still put an urban fantasy spin on it.
It's sort of set in modern day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what make it urban fantasy.
Right. Okay, so the main character, of course, is Percy Jackson.
Yes.
He's like, I assume he's a young teenager.
Yeah. middle grade, so it's like a middle school student at most.
Okay. And so this would be like quite the thing to find out about yourself, I would assume.
Yeah.
And then he has a best friend from school.
Yeah, Grover.
Now, because I gathered from the series.
Yeah.
Because the movie kind of, well, we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But the series sort of sets up that he's kind of, ostracized by other kids at school because he's just different.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little moody. I mean, or you know what I mean, just sort of standoffish. And maybe it's the dyslexia and all that that makes him, how kids can be cruel.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that Percy had to change schools multiple times.
Right, and so he finally at this final school has a friend.
Yes.
Grover.
Yeah. Grover. I just saw his last name and I'm forgetting, but I think it was like Underwood or something.
Okay. But there's more to Grover than just being a kid, right?
Yes. Yeah, Grover Underwood just checked.
Okay.
Grover is quickly revealed to be a setter.
Uh-huh.
So like human top half, goat bottom half.
Okay. And so then
he's supposed to be protecting Percy.
Right. Does he do a good job of that?
Yes and no.
Because we'll talk more about the adaptations in a sec. But then when he has to go on this quest, it seems, the idea that you just find out you're a demigod and, oh, by the way, you've done something horrible that you wouldn't have access to do, but you're still blamed for it.
Yeah.
I take it gods can just blame you and you're at fault.
Well, it seemed like the evidence pointed to him or something.
Okay.
Somehow.
Yeah, it seems like
Or he was just accused and Zeus ran with it.
Yeah. So he has to go retrieve this, and of course Grover goes with him, and then there's
so at Percy also goes to Camp Half-Blood,
right, okay.
Which is where they train demigods, and they also, while they're at the camp, they ideally learn who their parent is. It's actually possible for a demigod to never learn who their parent is because their parent doesn't claim them.
Right.
But he meets another demigod. Becomes friends with another demigod, or slowly becomes friends with another demigod, Annabeth Chase.
Mm-hmm.
And she is
daughter of Athena or something?
Yeah, daughter of Athena.
Okay. Now,
why did that escape me?
So, each now, if I'm understanding correctly, at least in the series and the movie, that the gods aren't supposed to have kids with mortals.
It's okay for demigods to exist, but specific gods were forbidden from doing it.
Okay, all right.
Because
they have a whole camp set up for something that's not supposed to happen. It seems pretty.
It's not like it's super common for.
Okay, well, at least in the series,
right,
it was a pretty large camp, and that was the same in the movie. A lot of kids.
As it doesn't happen very often.
Okay.
So I shouldn't be saying something I don't know 100% about, but in any case, there were specific gods that were forbidden from doing so. So the fact that, and Poseidon was one of them, so the fact that he had Percy was already breaking the rules.
Okay. And I take it, that they go to this camp to learn what their powers are and how to use them, and then are they sent back into the real world, or are they just kept in the camp?
They can choose at the end of the summer.
Okay, so it's a summer camp.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they can choose at the end of camp if they want to stay and train year round, or if they want to go back to the mortal world.
Okay. That would be really interesting to have to make that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they sort of train them, again, according to what I've seen, sort of an ancient, fighting with swords and helmets and stuff like that, which is probably works great if you're a god.
I assume that also has a basis in like the Greeks.
Now, does the book spend more time on his training? Because it seems like he's like, here's a sword, okay, now go do this.
Yeah, there's a little more training in the book.
Okay, because it seems pretty. I mean, especially in the movie, it was sort of like his training was a day or something.
Yeah. There was a little more time in the book. Like in the book, they go into more detail about specific rituals within the camp, and Percy kind of has time to acclimate. I guess. It's not like it's weeks.
Okay, but I mean, in the series, it seemed like a little time passed. In the movie, it was sort of like, okay, here's the sword, now go.
Yeah.
We did the find the flag battle and capture the flag, and now you're ready to go. You're like, what? Okay. So the book came out in 2005, and there's been a couple of sequels.
Yeah. There's the whole series.
Right.
My understanding is I got the impression based on after reading the book, I got the impression from watching the series that like book 2 onwards has a larger arc, and that's so like the first 5 books are a group, and then there's another 5 books that are a group, and then
he's cranking these out.
Yeah.
Good for him. Okay. So you want to talk at all about, or just talk now about adaptations that have been made? Or are you ready? There's some more about the book you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I'll just to go into the book a little bit more.
Okay.
I liked the book. Even from the first chapter, I was invested because it's like Percy is talking to you. He sounds like a kid.
Right.
I like that. Although the exact blurb for the book doesn't happen until like a quarter of the way in, at least.
Right.
I like that Rick Riordan's storytelling style. He doesn't waste any time with having the protagonist's normal thrown off.
Right.
Like in the very first chapter, Percy gets into a bit of action that implies there's more to him than or there's more to what's going on around him than he thinks.
Right.
And it just like hits the ground running and mostly maintains that momentum. So yeah, I just like that Rick Riordan, again, didn't waste any time having something happen, and keeps a good pace without feeling like it's too rushed.
Right.
And it was interesting reading different interpretations of the mythological figures. Admittedly, while I was reading, even though they had descriptions, because I was used to like the God of War and Disney Hercules interpretations, I mentally inserted those interpretations sometimes.
Okay.
But that's just again like frame of reference.
Well, it's what you're seeing what you know, kind of. Yeah.
Even though they do give a visual description of what this interpretation of the gods looks like.
Right.
And there are very memorable scenes, and by the end of it, I was curious to see where the story was headed.
All right.
And I'll also say one more thing. from what I've read with like middle grade series, it seems like I don't know how much other age groups have this happen, but it's like in a series, the first book is generally more standalone because I guess they don't know if there's gonna be anything more.
Yeah.
But they leave open the possibility for more, and then starting from the second book, there's more of an arc. Like that happened with Last Kids on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The first book feels pretty standalone, and then even though we know about like the portals appearing and like the zombies suddenly showing up, and then the second book onwards, that whole thing with Rezok begins.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that I assume that also happens with adult series. I read a book kind of just on a whim called The Garden of Allah, which was kind of a fictionalized thing about the kind of, it was a residence turned into a hotel.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting. All the stuff came, and then it was fun. And then there's like 20 other books. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that, So I assume that happens. If you can make a series out of something, if you're a writer, all the more power to you for doing it.
Yeah, and what was good about Percy Jackson was Rick Riordan left it. He told a complete story in one book, but he also left open possibilities for more like adventures.
Well, he also, picking Greek mythology kind of opens itself up. There's a lot of gods and demigods and all that kind of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, the way you set up the urban fantasy interpretation, he left a lot of potential.
Right. Okay. So we were talking earlier, this kind of adapted into a movie and a TV series, but it was also a musical on Broadway.
Yeah, there was an off-Broadway musical which within the last few years graduated to Broadway. Everything now is I used to think of musicals as sort of someone sat down and wrote this musical, and now it's like, what can I adapt? Like every movie seems to have a musical. I got the impression that a lot of I'm under the impression that a lot of musicals are adaptations because it's actually easier to base it off of something that already exists.
Right, yeah. It just seems like very rampant. It's always a movie. And I know Disney's made a whole, side business out of that.
Yeah.
But everybody does it, but,
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about the musicals because we've not seen them.
Yeah, we haven't seen it or heard any of them.
Yeah, I didn't know really one existed until we looked at Wikipedia. Yeah. So let's talk about the first thing that was was the film.
Yeah.
Christopher Columbus directed.
Yeah.
And
okay, so we watched the movie after the series.
Right.
I just
want to try to put in chronological order of adaptations.
I know, just for context. The movie was just bad. If you've never read the book or seen the Disney Plus series, you might think it's okay at best, like just okay,
right?
Or I guess mid. But if you have read the book, it's a really poor adaptation.
I haven't read the book, but it seemed like there were a lot of, I'll say, well-known actors in it, and as such, they got bigger parts than maybe they should have had or had a part at all.
Yeah. Sean Bean was Zeus.
Right. That's kind of a weird. I wouldn't think of a British guy as being a big god, but hey, But I mean, there seemed to be a lot of, I'll say, stunt casting in a way.
Yeah.
More so than casting because they're right for the part.
So with the movie, they aged up the kids.
Yeah.
Made them teens. Like
older teens.
Yeah. So with that, and they darkened the tone,
right? So
it feels closer to a YA as opposed to MG. And then the characters hardly feel like themselves because like Percy is turned into this like brooding teen, / rebellious teen.
Right.
Grover is like
horny. He always hits up all the girls.
Yeah, he's like when I was watching, I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who this kid is, but he's not Grover.
Right, yeah.
Because he's just so radically different. And then Annabeth is, she's kind of a composite of Annabeth and, was it Clarice?
Yeah, two characters in the series.
Yeah, and she's also turned into kind of a love interest.
Right.
Which fits a different mold than...
Right.
What I liked about Percy Jackson was they were just like friends, and they grow closer together.
Yeah.
As friends.
Well, at that age, I mean, they made him a little older, so you kind of think that the friend,
Yeah.
What is it from When Harry Met Sally? Guys can't be friends with women or whatever, which is not true, but I'm just saying that a certain mindset.
And then they make changes to the story for the sake of getting it done in just under 2 hours. But there are so many changes that it's more like it's accidentally accurate. The only scene that's actually accurate to the book is or the most accurate to the book was the Lotus Casino in Vegas.
It takes the Vegas casinos are notorious for you not knowing what time of day it is if you're in one.
Yeah.
This takes it to the nth degree if you don't even know what year it is or whatever.
They even rolled Greek mythology into that.
Okay.
And that was that credit where it's due. That scene was actually more accurate in the movie than it was in the show.
Right. Okay.
Because the show did that, but it also recontextualized it to have something else happen.
Right.
With the movie, that was the only thing that was the most accurate scene. Otherwise, it's like it hits major story beats.
Mm-hmm.
But none of it feels earned because it has a very rushed pace.
Right.
And the quest feels more like a road trip.
Yeah.
I guess. Because they managed to drive everywhere without incident.
Right. Yeah, because in the show it's different. But in the movie, I don't know in the book. In the movie, they go to Nashville or Memphis. I'm sorry, because they have that Parthenon there.
Yeah.
Is that where they go in the book?
Okay, they did that in the movie.
Right.
They do not do that in the book. My understanding is that's from a later book.
Okay.
They also took elements from later books and put them in the movie.
Okay.
And without having read later books, I just learned that secondhand. And it doesn't really work well because they make the quest about like in order to get to the underworld you have to find 3 pearls from Persephone, and that's not in Greek mythology.
Right. And
there were pearls, but it was different context.
They were given them somehow in the series.
Yeah.
Is that more accurate to the movie? I mean the book, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's more accurate to the book.
Okay.
Then so like Persephone shows up in the movie, but she's not, based on Greek mythology, she's not even supposed to be in the underworld.
Okay.
Because she's supposed to be in Olympus. They even explained that in the show as well. Then everyone just feels completely different. Like Hades in the source material and the show is he's actually nice.
Yeah.
Especially nicer compared to how other works depict Hades. It's just like this evil.
Well, you got the impression in the series this is kind of like where he ended up. It wasn't like his choice.
Yeah.
I got this part.
Yeah.
There was a funny line in the television series. He describes Hades.
Yeah.
But or hell.
Underworld.
Yeah, the underworld. Sorry. Yeah, Hades is his. I mean, a lot of times people associate Hades with that is the underworld. It's sort of like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the movie, he's just late evil.
Right.
Which is, again, like wildly out of character from the book. And then it just does so much wrong.
Right.
It's kind of like I don't know how to exactly explain it straight.
Right.
Because it's just so many different thoughts. Like,
right.
No, it's not supposed to be like this. This character didn't act like this. Wait, this didn't actually happen.
Right. Okay, so movie bad, or not so great.
Yeah.
So now Disney, which they actually own the book, or they're publishing the book. They're a publisher of the book. Still owns it till they decide to make a series.
Right? Yeah, Rick Riordan was able to pitch. My understanding was Rick Riordan pitched the show to Disney after the Disney-Fox merger.
Okay. It was a Fox film. Which means that Disney owns the property rights.
Yeah, that would mean they would own the film rights. So then the Rick Riordan had a very heavy hand in the show, unlike the film, which he disowned.
Okay.
So the show was actually the show did take some. It was only like 8 episodes long. And it did still take some liberties with the source material, partly to make it flow well as a series, and also, I guess, to make it fit in with the arc that must be present from like the second book onward, with Kronos.
Okay.
But otherwise, I actually really liked the show.
Yeah. You get the sense in the show more so than I got in the film, that the mother kind of has been talking to him about Greek stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like not telling him who his father is, but sort of hinting heavily that he needs to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And I got a sense that he learns it in this before the series starts. He has sort of a familiarity with who these people are.
Yeah.
Which are probably your average high school student would probably just know, like Zeus. And, I'll say this as a hetero male. The kid's cute that they cast as as Percy.
Yeah.
Which I think helps draw in girls to watch the show and maybe educate people about Greek mythology.
Yeah.
But he's a real good person to. He seems very like a normal kid would be in this situation to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Thrust into this magical world that you had you didn't know until like a week before you had anything to do with, right?
Yeah. I will say, compared to the book, the main trio are trying to figure out the right word, are they're smarter than they were in the book, because they more easily figure out that, oh, this is a trap, or we're dealing with this figure.
Right.
Whereas in the book, they act a little bit more like naive children.
Okay. Now,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. Just
right. Now, it seems like the series kind of goes out of its way to be more diverse.
Yeah.
As far as casting goes.
Yeah. Rick Riordan actually explained that, saying he wanted to emphasize the idea, the main takeaway from the series, which is like anyone can be a hero.
Right. Okay.
So he was like, if you don't like, if you didn't like it, then blame him.
Right.
Because he was heavily involved with the casting as well.
Yeah. Now, in the movie, there's a part played by Pierce Brosnan, which is what I'm saying is they cast pretty big names for some of these roles in the movie, and in the TV show, they're not unknown actors either, but they're not like James Bond, as a Minotaur. So some of the stuff that he learns from the people from school, or he was in I guess kind of a special school, or the people at the school knew who he was, kind of a deal, or some of the people, because like his teacher shows up at the camp and
so
Grover shows
he
up.
was sent to I think it was a boarding school,
right?
He it's us Grover and the teacher who are aware of who he is, and are involved with the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, no one else is aware.
Right. Well, there's an evil person after him.
Yeah.
Now, in the story.
Yeah.
He. These. Is it similar? Is the Grover? I think the series does a better job of unraveling the story.
Yeah.
Because you get a sense of Grover kind of turns on him, but it helps him, or it's the right thing to have done, or whatever, and that you get the sense that Grover and his mom kind of know each other.
Yeah. I will say Grover throwing Percy under the bus I was reminded that wasn't in the book.
Okay. It works though.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Riordan was open to make some changes to make it more television series friendly and whatever.
Yeah. I'm guessing he also saw the opportunity to try and improve the story in a way, because I remember with Invincible for the animated version, Kirkman saw that as an opportunity to improve the storytelling.
Right.
Whether or not you like the changes is up to the individual,
right.
But Rose saw as an opportunity to try something a little different.
Okay. So is the series closer to the book with obviously some changes as well?
Yeah.
Is there something that the book does, the television series does better than the book, or is that not possible?
I'm not sure I can say for sure. I haven't really, I hadn't given that too much thought.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, sometimes you can see how they told it this way that makes more sense, or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I'll just say I'm not necessarily a purist with source material, because I grew up with like the black sheep of legacy franchises, so I'm fine in general with seeing a different take on the same story. I can still recognize when it's
sorry. It's a live show.
I can still recognize when it's a bad take, but otherwise I am generally okay with. I'm also generally understanding of like making changes for a different medium, because you have to do that anyway.
Right.
For the most part. I'm not sure if there's something that it's super clear that the show did it better than the book, because for the most part it was pretty accurate. The only thing I could say about the show is that it probably needed like another episode or something.
Okay.
Because as accurate as it is, it still feels a little fast at times.
Right.
Because in order to make it fit 8 episodes, it still has to cut some things out. Like when Percy is at camp, there is this event in the book where there's like hellhound attacks. But there's but monsters aren't supposed to be able to get into the camp, so that's an indication that Percy isn't safe there.
Right.
So he has to go on this quest.
Oh, okay. So that's neither the series or the movie.
Yeah.
They just like cut that out. Oh,
Yeah.
That would change the flavor of it to a certain degree.
Yeah. No, he still has to go on the quest to clear his name, and he's still motivated by. He still has the same ultimate motivation of trying to get his mother, who he believed was killed by a minotaur that he fights. But the Hellhound attack was like, it's not really safe. Isn't it? They can't avoid the quest much longer.
Okay.
Or he's not really safe here.
Now there's certain Minerva comes into this, right? Snake lady, what's
Medusa?
What I get Minerva? Sorry, Medusa. She's in both.
Yeah.
I assume she's in the book as well.
Yes.
The idea that is Pan missing, kind of a thing. That was in both the movie and the Is that in the book as well?
Yes.
Is there anything that's not in the book that would have helped with the series besides the attack?
Right. It's hard to think about it off the top of my head at the moment.
Okay. So do you plan to read more of the books?
Yeah, I would read more.
Okay.
As I'm curious to see what happens, and then I would also watch the further seasons of the show, because I believe they confirmed a second season.
Right. Do we know what is that based on the second book, or do we know?
I think it would be based on it'd have to be based on the second book.
Okay.
Just trying to see the name of the second book. The second book is The Sea of Monsters.
Okay.
Which also got adapted into a movie. And
oh, really?
Yeah, but that's as far as the film adaptations got. And I believe Sea of Monsters is somehow... I heard Sea of Monsters, the movie, was somehow worse.
Wow.
Because I guess it's something like, it feels like during production they realized they might not get any more movies, so they just skipped right to the end of the fifth book.
Well, that's kind of the risky run, I guess.
Yes. Well, they also ran a risk with hiring teenagers instead of preteens.
Right. They could age out.
Yeah.
Was it the same cast in the second movie?
Yeah, from my understanding.
Okay.
I can take a quick look right here. That is the book. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same people.
Okay. I've never heard of the Sea of Monsters.
I was vaguely aware of Sea of Monsters when the movie came out.
Okay.
Actually, when the first movie came out, that was when I was first aware that Percy Jackson existed.
Yeah, that was my first awareness too, and I heard it wasn't a great movie.
But I was still vaguely curious about the book for the longest time, and then it was when I finally got back into middle grade.
Who recommended it to you?
It was a cousin.
Okay, that's fine.
Who was a huge fan of the books.
Okay, well, good. And you took their advice and read it.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
I've been looking for more stuff to read anyway.
All right. Okay. Anything else you want to?
Yeah. So the casting for the movie, Percy was played by Logan Lerman. Although Percy's personality was a bit different in the movie, he still acted it fine.
Okay.
I thought. You can do well with bad material.
Right. I mean, your acting chops are,
Yeah. What was interesting to me was we had seen him in Bullet Train.
Oh yeah, and who was he in? He was the son.
Yeah.
In Bullet Train. The guy that's dead most of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still, it's interesting that his career was still going and he got to be in stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not a memorable role. Well, or he played dead. Great. All right. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I wouldn't have recognized him from the movie from either movie as being in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But interesting. All right.
Otherwise, I think that about covers it.
All right.
I would recommend Lightning Thief, both the book and the Disney Plus show.
All right.
Watch the movie at your own risk. If you're watching this on YouTube later and you like this, leave a like, subscribe for more, and leave a comment below if you have an opinion about any shape or form of the Lightning Thief.
All right. So until next time, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.